The Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis, located in the Leeward Islands, is a federal two-island country in the West Indies. It is the smallest sovereign state in the Americas, in both area and population. The capital city and headquarters of government for the federated state is Basseterre on the larger island of St. Kitts. The smaller island of Nevis lies about 2 miles southeast of St. Kitts, across a shallow channel called the Narrows. Historically, the British dependency of Anguilla was also a part of this union, which was then known collectively as St. Christopher Nevis Anguilla. St. Kitts and Nevis are considered to be geographically part of the Leeward Islands. To the north-northwest lie the islands of St. Eustatius, Saba, St. Bartholomew Copyright Lemmy, St. Martin and Anguilla. To the east and northeast are Antigua and Barbuda, and to the southeast is the small uninhabited island of Redonda, and the island of Montserrat, which currently has an active volcano. St. Kitts and Nevis were among the first islands in the Caribbean to be settled by Europeans. St. Kitts was home to the first English and French colonies in the Caribbean, and thus has also been titled the mother colony of the West Indies. Etymology: St. Kitts was named Leonwiga by the Kalanoa Indians who inhabited the island. This name, roughly translated, in English means fertile land, a testimony to the island's rich volcanic soil and high productivity. Nevis's pre-Columbian name was Ouali, which translates to land of beautiful waters, presumably referring to the island's many freshwater springs and hot volcanic springs. Christopher Columbus, upon sighting what we now call Nevis in 1493, gave that island the name San Martin. However, the confusion of numerous, poorly charted small islands in the Leeward Island chain, meant that the name ended up being accidentally transferred to another island, the one which we now know as the French-Dutch island Saint Martin. The current name Nevis is derived from a Spanish name Nuestra C+± Hora de las Nieves, by a process of abbreviation and anglicization. This Spanish name means Our Lady of the Snows. It is not known who chose this name for the island, but it is a reference to the story of a 4th-century Catholic miracle, a snowfall on the Esquiline Hill in Rome. Presumably the white clouds which usually wreathe the top of Nevis Peak reminded someone of the story of a miraculous snowfall in a hot climate. The island of Nevis, upon first British settlement, was referred to as Dulcinea, a name meaning sweet one. Its original Spanish name, Nuestra C+± Hora de las Nieves, was eventually kept however, though it was soon shortened to Nevis. There is some disagreement over the name which Columbus gave to St. Kitts. For many years it was thought that he named the island San Cristobal, after his patron saint St. Christopher, the saint of traveling. However, new studies suggest that Columbus named the island San Diego. The name San Cristobal was apparently given by Columbus to the island now known as Saba, 20 miles northwest. It seems that San Cristobal came to be applied to the island of St. Kitts only as the result of a mapping error. No matter the origin of the name, the island was well documented as San Cristobal by the 17th century. The first English colonists kept the English translation of this name, and dubbed it St. Christopher's Island. In the 17th century, a common nickname for Christopher was Kit, or Kit. This why the island was often informally referred to as St. Kitts Island, further shortened to St. Kitts. Today, the Constitution refers to the state as both St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Christopher and Nevis, but the former is the one most commonly used. History: 5,000 years prior to European arrival, the island was settled by Native Americans. The last wave of Native American arrivals, the Kalanoa people, arrived approximately 3 centuries before the Europeans. The islands were discovered by the Europeans through a Spanish expedition under Columbus in 1493. In 1538, French Huguenots established a settlement on St. Kitts, but the settlement was destroyed by the Spanish soon afterwards and the survivors were deported. In 1623, an English settlement was established, which was soon followed by French settlements, the island being divided by agreement. Dissimilar to many other islands, the local Kalanoa people on the island allowed Europeans to colonize St. Kitts. In 1626, the Anglo-French settlers massacred the Kalanoa, preempting a plan by the Kalinaʻo to drive the foreigners from the island. A Spanish expedition, sent to enforce Spanish claims, destroyed the English and French colonies and deported the settlers back to their respective countries in 1629. As part of the war settlement in 1630, the Spanish permitted the re-establishment of the English and French colonies. As Spanish power went into decline, Saint Kitts became the premier base for English and French expansion into the Caribbean, as the islands of Antigua, Montserrat, Anguilla and Tortola for the English, and Martinique, the Guadeloupe archipelago and St. Bart's for the French were colonized from it. During the late 17th century, France and England battled for control over Saint Kitts. It was ceded to Britain in 1713. Although small in size, and separated by only 2 miles of water, the two islands were viewed and governed as different states until the late 19th century, when they were forcibly unified along with the island of Anguilla by the British. To this day relations are strained, with Nevis accusing Saint Kitts of neglecting its needs. Saint Kitts and Nevis, along with Anguilla, became an associated state with full internal autonomy in 1967. Anguillans rebelled, and separated from the others in 1971. Saint Kitts and Nevis achieved independence in 1983. It is the newest sovereign state in the Americas. In August 1998, a vote in Nevis on a referendum to separate from Saint Kitts fell short of the two-thirds majority needed. In late September 1998, Hurricane Georges caused approximately $458 million in damages in property and limited GDP growth for the year and beyond. Georges was the worst hurricane to hit the region in the century. Politics. Saint Kitts and Nevis is a sovereign, democratic and federal state. The Queen of St. Christopher and Nevis, Elizabeth II, is its head of state. The Queen is represented in the country by a Governor-General, who acts on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. The Prime Minister is the leader of the majority party of the House, and the Cabinet conducts affairs of state. The country may also be described by the unofficial term, Commonwealth realm, because it is a constitutional monarchy which shares the same monarch as some other members of the Commonwealth of Nations. Saint Kitts and Nevis has a unicameral legislature, known as the National Assembly. It is composed of 14 members, 11 elected representatives and 3 senators who are appointed by the Governor-General. 2 of the senators are appointed on the advice of the Prime Minister, and 1 on the advice of the Leader of the Opposition. Unlike in other countries, senators do not constitute a separate Senate or upper house of Parliament, but sit in the National Assembly, alongside representatives. All members serve 5-year terms. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet are responsible to the Parliament. Saint Kitts and Nevis is a full and participating member of the Caribbean Community and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. Administrative divisions. The Federation of Saint Kitts and Nevis is divided into 14 parishes, 9 divisions on Saint Kitts and 5 on Nevis. Geography. The country consists of 2 main islands, Saint Kitts and Nevis. The highest peak, at 1,156 meters, is Mount Leornwiga on Saint Kitts. The islands are of volcanic origin, with large central peaks covered in tropical rainforest. The steeper slopes leading to these peaks are mostly uninhabited. The majority of the population on both islands lives closer to the sea where the terrain flattens out. There are numerous rivers descending from the mountains of both islands, which provide fresh water to the local population. Saint Kitts also has one small lake, a salt pond. The national bird is the brown pelican. Economy. Saint Kitts and Nevis is a twin-island federation whose economy is characterized by its dominant tourism, agriculture and light manufacturing industries. Sugar was the primary export from the 1940s on, but rising production costs, low world market prices, and the government's efforts to reduce dependence on it have led to a growing diversification of the agricultural sector. In 2005, the government decided to close down the state-owned sugar company, which had experienced losses and was a significant contributor to the fiscal deficit. Former sugar plantations still dominate the Saint Kitts landscape, however many of the cane fields are being burned to make room for land development, especially on the northern side of the island, in the parishes of St John Capister and Christchurch. The agricultural, tourism, export-oriented manufacturing, and offshore banking sectors are being developed and are now taking larger roles in the country's economy. The growth of the tourism sector has become the main foreign exchange earner for Saint Kitts and Nevis. The country has also developed a successful apparel assembly industry and one of the largest electronics assembly industries in the Caribbean. Saint Kitts is dependent on tourism to drive its economy. Tourism to the island has been expanding since 1978. In 2009 there were 587,479 arrivals to Saint Kitts compared to 379,473 in 2007. This growth represents an increase of just under 40% in a two-year period. As tourism grows, the demand for vacation property increases in conjunction. In hopes of expanding tourism, the country hosts its annual Saint Kitts Music Festival. Saint Kitts and Nevis also acquires foreign direct investment from their Citizenship by Investment program, outlined in their Citizenship Act of 1984. Interested parties can acquire citizenship if they pass the government's background checks and make an investment into an approved real estate development. Economic citizenship by investment. Saint Kitts allows foreigners to obtain the status of Saint Kitts citizen by means of a government-sponsored investment program called Citizenship by Investment. Established in 1984, Saint Kitts unregistered trademark citizenship program is the oldest prevailing economic citizenship program of this kind in the world. Saint Kitts unregistered trademark citizenship by investment program offers multiple benefits. According to their official website, when you acquire citizenship under the Saint Kitts and Nevis citizenship program, you and your family enjoy full citizenship for life, which can be passed on to future generations by descent. As citizens of Saint Kitts and Nevis, you and your family are issued with passports which allow visa-free travel to more than 120 countries and territories worldwide, including all of the EU. Of course, you have the right to take up residence in Saint Kitts and Nevis as well as in most of the CARICOM member countries at any time and for any length of time. Each candidate must go through several legal steps and make a qualifying investment into the country and should complete certain legal requirements to qualify for citizenship under the investment program. There is a minimum investment that has to be made by the applicant, in either an approved real estate or in the Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation, to qualify for the economic citizenship of Saint Kitts and Nevis. The primary way to qualify for the program is through the purchase of government-approved real estate to the value of $400,000 and, with the help of the program, Saint Kitts and Nevis is on its way to becoming one of the Caribbean unregistered trademark's most luxurious and popular destination. Compared to other Caribbean islands, overall real estate prices in Saint Kitts and Nevis remain low and provide substantial room for capital appreciation. Reports conducted by Henley Estates, the leading real estate company servicing the clients seeking qualifying citizenship investments, shown that over the 3 years to 2012, depending on the project, apartment values have gained from 5%-9% per annum, and select pre-construction resort investments were 7%-12% per annum during the same time period. These figures are based on 238 transactions during this period. Henley Estates is the only firm to conduct an annual survey on the Saint Kitts and Nevis property market values and monitor the property market appreciation. The latest data indicates an acceleration in property appreciation when comparing it to the Department of Inland Revenue unregistered trademark's 2009 statistics. Health and education. There are 8 publicly administered high secondary level schools in Saint Kitts Nevis, and several private secondary schools. Public high secondary schools, KN High School, Basseterre High School, Washington Archibald High School, Fairchild High School, Charles E. Mills Secondary School, Charlestown Secondary School, Gingerland Secondary School, Sadler's Secondary School, Montessori Children's School, Ski Academy School, private high secondary schools, St. Teresa's Convent School and St. Joseph's School, which merged in 2010 to form the Immaculate Conception Catholic School, a Euro kindergarten to grade 11, a Euro the traditional Caribbean final secondary school grade. Lynn Jeffers Secondary School, Cancer Center Eastern Caribbean Street Kitts and Nevis counts a cancer center considered as a referral center for the Eastern Caribbean located in Mount St. John Hospital in Antigua. This center provides Caribbean citizens the opportunity to undertake radiotherapy and chemotherapy locally rather than traveling to the United States or United Kingdom. The whole project was managed by Dr. Arthur Porter since the beginning. Demographics: African descent 75.1%, Afro-European 12.3%, Mulatto 5.3%, East Indian and Afro-East Indian 5%, other 3.3%, South Asian ethnic groups 3%. In July 2000, there were 42,696 inhabitants. Their average life expectancy was 72.4 years. Emigration has historically been very high, and high levels of such in the country has resulted in a continuous decrease in the country's population by about 25% since its peak of about 51,100 in 1960. Emigration from St. Kitts and Nevis to the United States, 1986 €, 1990, 3,513, 1991 €, 1995, 2,730, 1996 €, 2000, 2,101, 2001 €, 2005, 1,756, 2006 €, 2010, 1,817. Culture. St. Kitts and Nevis is known for a number of musical celebrations including Carnival. The last week in June features the St. Kitts Music Festival, while the week-long Kulturama on Nevis lasts from the end of July into early August. Additional festivals on the island of St. Kitts include Inner City Fest, in February in Malini. Green Valley Festival, usually around Whit Monday in village of Caen. Easter Arma, around Eastern village of Sandy Point. Fest Tab, in July or August in the village of Tabernacle. And La Festival de Capister, around Independence Day in St. Kitts and Nevis, in the Capister region. These celebrations typically feature parades, street dances and salsa, jazz, soca, calypso and stielpan music. The 1985 film Missing in Action 2, The Beginning was filmed in St. Kitts. Sports. Cricket is common in St. Kitts and Nevis. Top players are contributed to the West Indies cricket team. The late Runako Morton was from Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis is the smallest country on Earth to ever host a World Cup event. It was one of the host venues of the 2007 Cricket World Cup. The St. Kitts and Nevis national football team, also known as the Sugar Boys, has experienced some international success in recent years, progressing to the semi-final round of qualification for the 2006 FIFA World Cup in the CONCACAF region. Led by Glent's Glasgow, they defeated the U.S. Virgin Islands and Barbados before they were outmatched by Mexico, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Trinidad and Tobago. The St. Kitts and Nevis Billiard Federation, SKNBF, is the governing body for cue sports across the two islands. The SKNBF is a member of the Caribbean Billiards Union with the SKNBF President St. Williams holding the post of CBU Vice President. Kim Collins is the country's foremost track and field athlete. He has won gold medals in the 100 meters at both the World Championships in Athletics and Commonwealth Games, and at the 2000 Sydney Olympics he was the country's first athlete to reach an Olympic final. He and 3 other athletes represented St. Kitts and Nevis at the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing. The 4x100-meter relay team won a bronze medal in the 2011 World Championships. American writer and former figure skater and triathlete Catherine Bertine was granted dual citizenship in an attempt to make the 2008 Summer Olympics representing St. Kitts and Nevis in women's cycling. Her story was chronicled online at ESPN.com as a part of its e-ticket feature entitled So You Wanna Be an Olympian? She ultimately failed to earn the necessary points for Olympic qualification. St. Kitts and Nevis had 2 athletes ride in the time trial at the 2010 UCI Road World Championships. Athletes included Reginald Douglas and James Weeks. See also: Outline of St. Kitts and Nevis, Legislative Council, Index of St. Kitts and Nevis related articles, Christina disaster. Notes. External links, Government, Saint Kitts and Nevis Official Government Site, Saint Kitts and Nevis Citizenship by Investment Program, Saint Kitts and Nevis Official Investment Promotion Agency, Saint Kitts and Nevis Saint Kitts Financial Services Regulatory Commission, General Information, Saint Kitts and Nevis Entry at the World Factbook, Saint Kitts and Nevis from OCB Libraries GovPubs, Saint Kitts and Nevis at DMOZ Street Kitts and Nevis Country Profile from the BBC News, Maps, Geo-hack list of street, satellite, and topographic maps, Caribbean Online, Saint Kitts and Nevis Maps, Wikimedia Atlas of Saint Kitts and Nevis, Tourism, Nevis Tourism Authority A. Euro Official Site, Saint Kitts Tourism Authority. A Euro Official Site, Saint Kitts Music Festival. A Euro Official Website of the annual music festival. News, West Indies News Network. The Street Kitts Nevis Observer, ʻniːvɪs, Review.